Good morning, everybody. You got the lady hippie at the bar here. I don't know if you can see, but I raised them up. This is from Stone Mountain. Robert got me. Uh, Crystal and gold of Stone Mountain. I love that place. Where the Scottish Rites Festival is also at. And as you can see, I have a stiffener, even though it's still fairly early today. If I swear, if we didn't have something go wrong every day, I would think I had died. It's just crazy around here lately. Um, mm. Although I see it's not just me. This is everybody. And yay, nobody's being skipped. We're all having crazy days. And I'm sure it will work out. I always have this, it's backwards on the screen. And then I go, oh, nothing fits or works right. You have to forgive me. I still am under the weather. And I decided I didn't want to miss a day. So I popped up here for a little while. Like one of them headaches, but I think the lady stiffener will take care of that for me. As you see, I'm not drinking an entire bottle here, and it is noon, I believe. If it's not, it is now. Yeah, well, it's close enough. I'm old. I can just make time go away anyway. It's not like it slows down when you're older. It actually gets faster, and I see my mic is going to give me fits today. Hello, hello, hello. I didn't do a lot of testing. That's where we're getting some of the trouble at. I hope that's a little bit better. I've checked out the videos that I put up, and I hope that others have seen it. I haven't gotten a lot of feedback, but I have gotten a little bit. I am very grateful for that alone. I was hoping, however, to have a lot more feedback. I love talking, as you can see. I actually had a friend ask me, how can you do that? You don't know if there's 2 million people or one. It's like they're both just as important. And if I ever were to reach 1,000, which is what I'm trying to do, I might faint for the first time in my life. And I'm not a young chicken. Mm. I have my husband's extended family. They all over Facebook. I have several hundred friends. They all over Facebook. So that's about 400 votes. I'm not hearing from them, and I'm not sure why, because I usually get a chance and I'll post it on there, and I'll tell them go on over to YouTube if you want to see it live, but you can comment on either function. Hit a like button. It's all for entertainment purposes only. Yes, that's right. I am still going to be here all week. It's not like I'm going to have these big people, on my bucket list is just to see Cat Williams once. And I think that's ship has sailed. But to be able to sit down and talk to him and interview him, oh, through the moon. I could go to the moon under my own power. I mean, he's one of my favorite guys. And at the moment, he's in TV things a lot because he's not kept quiet about how things were run in Hollywood. And if we have a question about that, we can always rely on Harry Weinstein's incarceration or Danny Masterson's incarceration. There's many that have been, it's just, I don't know. In Danny Masterson's case, 3 women accused him of uh, rape. This was 25 years supposedly after the fact. Now, I fired 3 attorneys when I wanted my first divorce. I went to the law library and I looked up what you had to do to get a divorce. My divorce cost me $75. I was my own attorney. And I had been married 10 years, although I had been trying to divorce for 10 years. It's a new story. The judge was a lady, and she said, you don't want any money back for his college? You don't want any money back for alimony? You don't want child support? And I was like, look, this guy can barely keep a house over his head. I don't even know if he can do that. As far as that goes, if I could not take care of my son, I wouldn't ask for custody of my son. I don't believe that even though we share a child, that it should be a federal law that they have to pay this, that, or the other. If I couldn't have taken care of my son, I would have said so. And all I want is my name back, and I want my son. And that's all. And she said I was an amazing person. If all women were like that, not worried about getting their rent payment from their ex husbands, things might go a lot better for the children. But in any event, so I didn't sue for any of that. It cost me $75 to do the paperwork, file it, do the second paperwork, file it, go to court. I could have murdered the first three attorneys because they cost me $6,000 and never did a thing. The reason I say all of that is because at this point things have gone so haywire in some ways, is that maybe I should hit that law library again, and I won't even say why. But people, you can do things on your own. You don't have to pay an attorney if you don't trust them. Get out there and go to the law library. It's Googled now. Everything's Googled. So I wanted to go on with that. And I wanted to explain to people also that if you're adopted, I'm adopted. That's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. I was adopted at 9 years old. I was abandoned at 3. I was found at 30 because we were featured on the Parade magazine on the front cover and 3 or 4 pages inside of photos and so forth. My parents were the first parents, and they were too old, usually, and by the rules, to adopt. So they got in under a program that paid them for each child until they were 18. So there were 2 checks every month until we turned 18. And they managed to buy a home, and that's where I finished growing up. Um, there's a story behind the fact that the family reached out. My husband's sister, as a matter of fact, made one phone call. The birth mother had been ill, and she was up to get some paperwork or something from her home. And excuse me a moment. She had a copy of the Parade magazine in there. Now, even though I was adopted, I knew that the mother was there on that day near the Christmas tree. And they did take a picture of myself and my sister in front of that tree. And on the back of the picture, it said it said Leilani and Sandra Holmes. And I kept saying all through, you know, that my name was Leilani Holmes. Mother and father, I guess whenever they got this done, I was only 9, and I would have been in on everything. But they had the name changed to Wanda Lee. When I was told about the name change, they said, "Oh no, your parents did that so you and your sister would be close in how they named you." And I said, "No, then my last name was Holmes, and you've changed it now to my name now that you've adopted me. But my last name was Holmes. My first name was Leilani." And they always told me, no. And then I found a picture in her purse that showed us girls and with the right names. So I also knew that the mother had been there. But when this woman, Betty is her name, my husband's sister, she was a Native American. She had registered everyone, and we make jokes that my husband, is a card-carrying Native American. He's also the chieftain line. And we had to pass the gauntlet there because we just got too old to keep doing it. Because there's a lot of things that go on when you're a Native American. It turned out I was a Native American. The red hair was a dead giveaway, I thought, but you know what I'm saying. But my husband is a full chief. So we went through all of this, but they found me by the Parade magazine listing the address and the names of everybody. It's right there for everybody. So she made one phone call. She got my brother because he had inherited the house that I grew up in. Well, spent 7 years in. He immediately notified my sister, who's, I'm sorry to say, I don't like talking bad about the dead, but she just was loopy. Never had a job in her life. And by that point, I think she had her 4th or 5th child, and her husband had passed away. She was still very young. So were the children. And she begged me and called me and begged me to get in touch with these people and talk to them, but that she was going to go and take the kids and meet them when I please go. She's my sister. At the time, I was managing a Holiday Inn with the bar, the restaurant, everything. And I think that may be too loud. Yeah, just a bit. And so she didn't do much. Bless her, and she's crossed over now. So, in any event, we were adopted. The brother that I adored, my adopted brother, he was 13 years older, and he was actually their nephew. They bought him for $5,000, and then she signed the papers. So they bought him. And apparently, he had wanted baby sisters. I don't know why a 13-year-old would want baby sisters. I don't believe that's true anymore. And I believe that, that they didn't know my name. That was their story. They didn't know my name. And they kept to that story. I got to give them credit. My adopted brother was a great brother. He was always there. And I miss him dreadfully. He too has crossed over. The point I'm starting to get around to is that they found me with the one phone call. It was my husband's sister. And this was, so I went down there because my sister had a problem. And down there, I being below Macon, Georgia, to visit these people. And they treated us so well. We were indicted back into the tribe at that point. My sister did look dark and completely different from me. She had the olive skin, black hair, brown eyes. I had the red hair, light skin, green eyes, hazel. So it didn't make a lot of sense. But they had a chieftain that was Scottish, full Scottish. And so they thought, somewhere along the line I had gotten that blood. But they were really great, and I had never had a family. And I had a child by then. And he was going to be 9 not long after this. And so I thought everything was great. And to make a long story short, I ended up moving down here. And finally, I could get my divorce, which I did when I left and went back to San Antonio for 3, 4 years. But I did stay down here a couple of years, and people changed. You had one person to your face, but you had a second person behind your back. These people were not kind at all. It was devastating. I mean, that one, it was like a sucker punch to the gut. My advice to anyone who's an adoptee: don't put your feelings out there. Don't tell them about your life, and be prepared for a world of hurt just in case. Because I was abandoned once. As far as I was concerned, I was then abandoned twice. One of the half brothers was a Jehovah Witness preacher, and I was told by him that he could no longer speak to me because, for one, I would not join the church. I don't believe in organized religion. I believe that in a supreme being. I believe in teachers and so forth. I don't believe in organized religion. It's been changed too much, been written by man, and I study all of it. So that was hard. And I hope to warn other adoptees so that they don't go through what I did by thinking they have a family, and it turns out they don't. And and it's not to your face. And when it finally sinks in, and you're going to try to find out anything, backs are turned on you. The real birth mother, whatever you want to call her, I tried to reach out, tried. She acted like I was a monster coming to kill her, like I was the predator. Never spoke to me, never reached out to me. Finally, I visited her a couple of times. She didn't speak, and it was very uncomfortable. And I realized there was no point in continuing that road. But it didn't occur to me that my husband's family, who's tied up in the background of the real family of my side, they crisscrossed a lot. Like, his sister looked for this information because she was married to another half brother of mine. All of us had the same mothers. And apparently, I just didn't fit the norm. My sister was a housewife, and I've always been a businesswoman, a veteran at 17. And well, I wasn't a veteran, I was active Army. Um, I don't understand to this day what happened. One minute, everybody was great. I had a family. The next minute, they do things like, I'll give you some examples here. They invited me and my husband and my son over for Christmas to his sister's home. That's at that time she used to take care of all that stuff. That was where everybody met. And so all of the and we're talking tons of kids. Yeah. And they all got gifts. Of course, Robert didn't get a gift. I didn't get a gift. My son didn't get a gift. And he wasn't even 9 years old. So he had to sit there and watch all these kids get gifts. And at that point, I was so broke. And Robert and I were just trying to pay for our house at the time. And so we hadn't done Christmas because, again, we were invited and told not to worry about that. And my son, I have to admit, he didn't show the emotions that was, I'm sure, flying through him. He didn't shed a tear ever over it. We left and we went back home, and it turned out that a family for his best friend, their parents had asked the police to let them into my house, which is shocking, but they had good reasons. They put up a tree for us and they filled it with presents underneath. I mean, all kinds of things for my son. Then he went to his knees and cried, and I was right beside him. Kindness undoes me. I tend to cry. But at that point, I knew something was terribly wrong, that these people weren't who I thought they were or who they pretended to be. And then they tried to take my son. So that's when I left for Texas. And I had plenty of contacts. I had a job. He did too. My husband, I got him a job. So we left. And we didn't tell anybody where we were going except his brother. We told everybody else we were just going to move closer to Macon. Um, so once that case was settled, which was like 24 hours, then they said, no, that's not true. You're not an abuser of your child. So as soon as that happened, a day later, 2 days later, we were gone. So I think all in all, it was like 5 days, and that was it. And they didn't know where Robert or I were. I'm sure they didn't care where I was, but they didn't know where their brother was for 3 years. We married during that time in Texas, and then we were able to get his daughter if we moved back to Texas. I mean, back from Texas to Georgia. So we did. And I love my stepdaughter, but she lives down below Macon and she doesn't see us very often. And that's another story. Um, but then my husband, the birth mother died. And my husband wanted me to go to the funeral. And he wanted me, I love this, you have to do this. So he wanted me to go. I felt that it was something I needed to do. And I did want to go. But I agreed and I went. But my sister didn't fly in, of course. She wasn't there. So I went. And I was ignored by the entire family, of course, even by the family that interacted and intermarried between my husband's family and me. And at one point, of course, it was the situation was over. You were to get in a limo and follow them to the gravesite. And Robert had been about talking to people because these were his family. And he knew, and he knew my birth mother. He knew her very well. I don't know why, but I guess it's because they intermarried a thing again. And he was shocked. He couldn't understand any of it either. Kept saying, well, maybe they're jealous because you work. Da, 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 da. So anyway, we're at the funeral and he's going, you got to get in the limo because you're her daughter. I'm like, no, I don't have to get in the limo. I ain't getting in the limo. I just never her daughter. She didn't treat me like a daughter. I'm doing this kind of thing. No. And so, of course, they shoved me in the limo. I love this one. I call it out of the limo, in the limo and out of the limo. That's what I always say. I got into the limo, and there was plenty of room. Uh, and as I started the set, then they started saying each person would grab me and say, "No, no, you can't, there's not enough room. We have more people coming. We can't have you in here." So I was passed the limo and out the door on the other side. And this is in front of everybody because they loaded the limo, as you know, first. And I'm wanting to just be swallowed up, you know. My husband had seen what they were doing. We were married by then. And he came running around the side of the limo so that when the door opened, he just grabbed me. And I mean, I don't think if he hadn't been holding me up, I don't know if I could have walked. And I thought I was a strong woman, being a veteran and all. That was a real sucker punch, you know. And maybe it wasn't that was so bad, but that everybody saw it. And it turns out that this was done at the Stafford funeral home. It used to be in their family. They owned it and they sold it to these other people. Well, the woman and the husband that ran it, the woman saw what they did to me. She also knew the background story that the long lost girls, being my sister, had been found. And she saw what happened. And so when we got to the other area where everybody had to sit down again, she went, and we were standing in the back. They had put us in the back, the last car out behind them, so that by the time we parked, you know, most of the service was over. And I'm still going, I'm not getting out of the car. I don't need to be here. And of course, my husband's going, yes, you do. You have every right. Da, da, da. Oh, jeez. But they don't listen. So, of course, I'm drug in. So I'm okay with standing in the back, right? And I wasn't. I definitely wasn't going to. Whoever was hosting the after funeral party, as I call them, the wake. I wasn't going to go there. You can bet your sweet bibbies. Although my husband wanted to go, so we're standing in the back, and Mary reaches around several people in the front row, and she's telling them, and I'm watching, and they're moving. They're getting out of the front row, and they're moving. And then she comes up to me and Robert personally and says, "You're her daughter. You need to be up here. Just follow me." Now, this is a complete stranger to me, and I don't even know what to do. And my husband, again, is holding me up and propelling me forward because I don't want to be there. And put me in the first row, and my husband in the first row. Well, then his family, of course, that's who was in there, wouldn't talk to us for some time because their kids were the ones that were removed so that we could sit down. So the whole point being to this is sometimes it's horrific on you. It will tear your heart to pieces and you can't put them back together because you're 30 and you wondered what happened to a family. Why would they find me and do this to me and my son? So again, I went to Texas, and I wasn't going to come back. But again, we had the problem with our stepdaughter. So once again, we're back, and I haven't left again. We had no more trouble from pretty much nothing that we couldn't handle anyway. I've never understood why I was treated this way by both half brothers, by the woman who found me, and I admired her greatly. She too was awful. Um, the whole side of his family, except his brothers, were great to me. His sisters, including the one who found me, were horrible after that. I mean, it was as if they wanted to drive a stake through my heart every time they saw me. It was really bad. I was going to write a book on this. I'm a published author already, and I was going to write a book on this because I'd like to know that no other person has to go through that. It is devastating, Emma. It really is. You don't think that you need them. Spent 30 years. You don't want me around. I'm good with this. And after that, I was that. No, I was done. And my husband kept dragging me to funerals. That went on for 20 years. And finally, we've been married, coming up on 35 years this year. I stopped going 25 years ago. I said, I don't care who dies anymore. I'm not going. I'm just not. And that's still when I was living near them. We've moved further, about 4 hours away. And now I don't have to worry about it because my husband knows I'm not going to do it. Just flat out not going to do it. And it's a good thing because the last couple of ones I went to, again, run by the Stafford Funeral Home, again, family members of actually both of us. And I let everybody know. I told everybody what jerks they were. I told everybody how they treated me. Everybody. There was a part, we used to go to the pool hall. And it turned out that the half brother, the other one, not the minister, would go in and get a drink. And they knew him and they knew Robert. And they were very kind to me. And after twice, the half brother was there when we got there to play pool. I didn't speak because I didn't know what he was going to say, and then um, it wasn't going to be good. And I'll tell you this: we had already crossed swords once, and I had picked him up by his shirt and slammed him into a wall and told him if he ever said such a thing to me again, or even if I thought he thought of such a thing again, I would be back to finish what I was doing. And then I let him go. The first time the family met me, which is Robert's sister, her children were there. I had been on a 36-hour trip, which was supposed to be a straight trip, the short trip, 36 hours. I land in there and I go up and I say, I can't get my luggage is gone. What's going on? Well, that's not my problem. And I had been up 36 hours. I'm a black belt, I'm a veteran, and it really got under my skin. I was 30. And I picked him up and I jerked him up and over the bar that was there, this little counter, and I'm shaking him like a terrier. And I said, when does it become your problem? And he said, right now, ma'am. I forgot that the birth family was going to be picking me up. And then after he went off to find the luggage, I went, oh my God. I didn't want to turn around because I knew then that the people standing there, because there was no one else there, really early in the morning. And I said, okay, I'm going to turn around. So I turned around and I got to admit, they were gracious then. And I did adore them for several weeks. That's why it hurt so bad. But they were just kind of open mouthed, but they came forward and introduced themselves. And the boy came back with my luggage. So the visit didn't start out well, I'll put it that way. But my luggage was returned. But the whole point being is that for, I'd say 6 months to a year, maybe less than that, probably about 6 months from the time of being welcomed to the time of being shunned and talked about and lied about and even trying to take my child was within about a 6 months range. So that's how fast your heart can be taken a second time. So before you meet, if you're an adoptee and they look you up, just guard your heart. Don't tell anything to anybody because then again, if they're going to be the kind of people that I met, it's not going to come out well and it's going to hurt a lot. And if you've got children, it's a complete disaster because you can't protect your kid because it's being done even right in front of you. You can't protect your child until you can get them out of there, which is why I kept returning to Texas. I would never have come back if my husband hadn't just put me in a truck and we drove back because I hated it here. And I tried not to hate people. You don't want to be around me. I don't want to be around you. I'm good with that. But my kid is where I kept losing it the way they were hurting my son. Now, Robert's been a great dad. Uh, my son to this day, he gave me away when he was 13. He's great. Look good in that tux. Will tell you that his father is Robert, that he has a birth donor. As he puts it, so cute. But that's not his father. And as his grandfather is Robert for his kids. And I, I'm very glad he's that respectful. That's something that I demand is respect. He deserved the respect. Um, his mother, even, I was so broke at one point after spending a month of my salary to get it paid. My husband's uh, father actually drove to Texas to pick up my things because it's a long story in here. So that went a whole month of check, things like that. So she bought his school clothes and everything and would never let me pay her back. And she was so good with children. She was very good with my son. And my son called her grandma and she liked that. She never said he couldn't. Uh, she she tolerated me. One day she must have lost her temper. She came to my house and we were all sitting in the living room, and she said she had tolerated me for long enough. And I said, I was very respectful. I liked his mother and I respected his mother, and I explained this such, and I did know what I'd done wrong. But whatever it was, I'm very sorry. And I will get out of the way so you can see your son. So I literally left the house, and my husband went ballistic. I don't know what was said, because I told Robert before I went out the door, please do not argue with your mother. That's your mother. Okay. You're going to have to be respectful. But let me go on outside. Anyway, I decided to come back in the back door when she opened the front door, because I was like, I don't want to start anything. I'm just explaining these things because this is how bad it can get without you doing anything wrong that you could find. You could ask a dozen people, they go, I don't know. You were there. I don't know. And so like I said, I took that for over 20 years, and then it was enough. Uh, I had supported my husband as long as I could do it. I had gone to the funerals for as much as I could take, because every time anybody saw me, it was, whisper, whisper, and then you would hear awful things. I mean, I can't even describe them. So, any adoptee, take my word of warning. Don't just jump in with both feet and think, oh, great, I've got my family, because I did that. Yeah. Oh, right. My son has a family. Don't do that. Don't do that. Especially with the children. It's it can come out so horrible that it's not describable. And I've only given you three or four examples. And I'm coming up on my 35th year of marriage. And all of that wasn't just the birth family, it was the husband's family as well. Although some of them were tied up with the birth family, which is a God book if you've ever heard one. But take my word for it. Don't do that. Don't do that. People are very selfish. They're very stab you in the back kind of thing. And I don't understand that. If I have a problem with you, I'll tell you to your face. I don't have a problem with that. Because if I have a problem with you, I'll tell you to your face, because maybe we could just talk and figure out what the hell's wrong. That never happened in 34 years. Uh, Even my husband has defended his family, but not me per se. Oh, they're just jealous. Oh, this, that, and the other. I mean, it's always something that I must have kind of done wrong, but he doesn't say so. But it sounds like that. Until I had to put my foot down and say, no, I won't see any of him ever again. I'm done. Literally. I mean, stick a fork in me done. Never will I see those people again. Never will I speak to any of those people again. We're talking 80, 90 people probably, because it's a very extended family. I will speak to his brothers. I won't speak to the sister. The other sister passed away, which I am sorry to say. I did admire her. But the other half brother is still alive, but of course he not allowed to talk to me, because I did explain to his congregation what a hypocrite he was, which was an enormous amount of fun. I gotta admit. Ended up having to jack the other brother up again, the little one, the younger one, because he did something stupid in my face, and I don't go well with that. To me, that's a threat. And I don't think about what I'm going to do. It's a threat, and I've been trained since I was 9 to stop a threat instantly. And so again, I had him by the collar, shoving him in, his head into a brick wall. He's 13 years older, and he's a jerk, and he's a hypocrite, and all the above. But got in my face with that finger thing and blowing that little chicken chest up, and had to jack him up again. Let him know this is just a second warning. The third time is going to be a lot worse. Get your butt in your truck and shut up, and don't ever speak to me again. He never did. Went to the he was drunk. Went to the truck and shut up. I don't care if I'm almost 65 now. For one, I'm always within 4 feet of a loaded weapon. I mean, literally carry my own with me when I'm out. And he knew that. He knew I stayed armed. There's a lot of things they knew, but they seemed to think it was okay to push me to the brink that I wouldn't shoot one of them. And they're lucky I didn't. So, again, don't do the adoption. Look for people. If it's you looking for them, stop. Stop. Because it's not going to come out right. And if they somehow find you, pray and hide your kids. Don't put your kids out there where they can kill them by breaking their heart. Because that's what happens. It's not all roses and fun, it's more hell than there is fun on the planet. You think you've seen hell until you live it again. It wasn't bad enough. At first, she had denied that she was there, the birth mother, to sign the paperwork for the adoption. She was there all along, but she didn't tell her brothers that. So they re, mortgaged their homes and they went looking everywhere. I think it was Florida is where she told them. But they searched for years to find me. And I did meet the uncle, so they were great people. Unfortunately, they passed away right after I met them. So again, I had a family, and some of them were great people, but for only a short amount of time because I was 30, so that would have made them in their 60s and 70s, and they unfortunately passed. But I did have some rays of sunshine in there, but not a lot, and nothing to repair what they had done to me and my son on many occasions. Um, Again, just guard your six. And on that note, which is very depressing, I saw that against the desert, Saudi Arabia is blooming. The camels aren't floating no more. It was like, oh. However, the war does seem to be escalating, which is another thing to be worried about. They're still hitting ships out there, and ours are replying. Ours are sending missiles in and blowing up stuff. The north part of Israel, they've had to evacuate because they're sending missiles that the dove apparently can't get to them. I don't know why, but it's blowing the heck out of the north of Israel. So they've been evacuated. This is horrendous. It's unbelievable. That's the fact also that we spent billions per years uh, all this time on the UN to give aid to the Palestinians. We built their tunnels. These people, the Israelis did not charge them for water, fuel, electricity. Excuse me. Many of them crossed into Israel to work, and yet this is what they did to the Israelites. What do you think they're going to do to us? Huh? Anybody out there? Hand showing? Yeah. If you're not a Muslim, you are to be killed. There is no compassion in these people. There is no other answer to these people. You're either a Muslim or you die. Okay? Never think for a second that because your friend is a Muslim and he's in America, that doesn't mean he knows 90 people who know he knows you and that they won't kill you because that's the way it's supposed to be. And what they believe of their religion. That's how these zealots have come out. I don't know where they get confused because it's not the Quran that I know. It doesn't say kill everybody, but that's what they do. So I don't even know what to think. I can't help them because I'm too old and too broke. And I'm like, I couldn't believe I'm seeing what I'm seeing. We all said never again. And the UN had one job. They got one job, and they can't do that. One job. You attack us, you attack everybody. Well, food. They've got, I don't know how many terrorist nations sit on the UN. There's a lot of them. Iran does, Pakistan, Palestine, Saudi. I mean, the list is just almost endless. They have tons of terrorists that sit on the UN. Outright terrorists. Outright terrorists. But they sit on the UN. And I don't know why we're still there. President Trump had turned off the spigot of money to him. He was the only one that saw the truth and did something about it. The others know the truth. They send more money, just like Biden, just like the Clintons and Obama. And I liked them. I liked Obama. But he made sure that the Iranians had enough uranium to make atomic weapons. I mean, who does that to? I don't know how much closer to treason you can get than that. Let's make sure our enemies can shoot nukes at us. Here's your uranium. Or maybe it was the Clintons. I can't remember because it's still so wild to me that this could be done. Um, they're taking our country down from within, and they're doing a bloody good job of it. The border is, I feel for everybody at the border. They're packed in there. They were promised they could do this. They were told, who wouldn't want to go here if they were told, just walk across. All you have to do is set foot on American soil. You'll be instantly an American. We'll give you everything. They're throwing kids out of school so they can put the immigrants in there. I mean, it's ridiculous what's going on here. If the parents get up and say, you can't teach my child this, my kid doesn't need to know how to get a floor mat and pray to Mecca. It's supposed to be just separation, church and state, guys. Separation. These same people are here for free, getting aid while marching around, burning our flag, and saying they want this or that. Well, if they do, why aren't they immediately repatriated back to their own country? Why are they still here? And it's not just here. And it's not just this state. It's not just Texas. It's New Jersey, New York, New Hampshire. It's everywhere. They've sent them everywhere. And everywhere they've sent them, the crime rate goes through the roof, which we had a problem with anyway. If everybody just remember that through the pandemic, they were shooting cops in the head while they were still in the squad cars doing nothing wrong to them. They burnt down police stations. It's, how do people forget so fast? And then they show another 3 or 4 years has gone by and they're going, oh, yeah, this city's pretty much dead. Well, they don't have cops there. In New York, if you arrested an illegal alien, they can't be charged with anything. So they arrest them, they take him in, and they just let him go. Why arrest him? Has anybody seen these sanctuary cities? Have they seen what's going on here? These homeless shacks. It reminds me of some reels I saw during President Franklin's time, and they had done that. And I can't remember the names of everybody that did it, but they tore it down finally. But it was only one. We have, I don't know how many actually, a lot. Seattle is dying. It's another city that's about gone. San Francisco's close on its heels. I don't know, but it looks like New York has been brought to its knees. And I don't know when they can call it quits. And what can you do with 11 million people that aren't trying to work? If you're in a hotel for 5 months, you can't find a job in 5 months? How hard is it to say, do you want fries with that? There's jobs. But it doesn't seem like any of them want jobs. They just want that free government money, of which they end up sending back to Mexico anyway, with the premise of our people saying, no, that money will come back to us. They'll spend it here. I'm like, oh, geez, Louise, how did anybody think these people were smart enough to even be in the government? And we're talking about the fact that most of them have been there 40, 50 years, like Ed Kennedy, who died as a senator, so been there 50, 60 years. And I had a problem with him because of Chappaquiddick. Look that one up. I still believe he was responsible for that woman's murder, that he didn't try to help her. This car he had that ran off the road, it supposedly into this river. It wasn't a river. If it was a very low river. Had the girl been able, she probably was injured. It might have been knocked out. I don't know. But there's no way she should have drowned in that car. She should have been able to just walk out the window. I don't know why she didn't, but she died in that car. And when they showed them taking that car out, That car was not fully underwater, so I don't know how this girl drowned. I mean, yeah, the way it was at, she would have been underwater, but I still don't believe for a minute that he didn't help her. He says he did. What was it, 2 3 days later? You know, the story comes out. He's got his arm in a sling, and then he sent her. And I still to this day believe, and so did my family, believe that he killed her. He didn't. He didn't outright kill her, but he got himself out. He took care of himself, leaving her to be stuck or whatever, unconscious or whatever, and drown. And he hid evidence as far as I'm concerned, and he didn't report it. He went and covered his own ass, and then 2 or 3 days later, whatever it is, it's been a long time, 60s. She was an aide, by the way, to the campaign. She was, I think, 19 years old only, very young girl. And for one, she shouldn't have been in that car with him. That's another thing most of us why we didn't like that part. But then to find that this girl drowned, and this thing had like maybe 6 feet of water, maybe seven, easily able to get out. He sure did. Yeah, even if she was no longer alive, he didn't take her out. No, I think he was guilty of murder through various reasons, manslaughter, however they want to put it. But I never believed him to be innocent of anything when it came to that accident. He didn't go to the funeral. He didn't even send her a wreath. Nothing to the parents. Never said a word to the parents. To never ever, never ever. I can't remember what they. I think he had one, maybe two little chats on TV that he talked about it or something. I haven't really looked into that so far because I was so angry that the young lady had died and he hadn't tried to save her. And it was obvious he hadn't tried to save her. This car was not underwater. The front part of it was underwater. I mean, there was no, no. If she died because she was unconscious and the water would have been over her head by then because of the way the car went in. But you could, I mean, half the car was still out of water. There's no reason she should have drowned. I don't know what happened there, but I don't like it. I'll put it that way. And we've still got these same politicians doing the same crap now. Now they go in and impeach a president that actually says the UN stealing our money and doesn't give it to them. Who is stealing our money and inventing viruses that they give us, and a whole pandemic develops? We paid for that. I'm cutting the funding to NATO. I'm cutting the funding to the UN. I'm cutting the funding to who? No more. That was when they started trying to impeach him. So apparently, if you are willing to give all these no account organizations billions of dollars a year, you're okay. Your Senate won't try to impeach you. No, Congress won't try to impeach you. Look what this man has done. Biden, what he has done. Look what's happening. Look at the 7,000 trucks that have come up there. Look at the National Guard that they keep coming in from different places. Just people, regular people using their own money trying to help this border situation. It's beyond a crisis at this point. So I hope everybody also sees this and contacts the appropriate authorities and finds out what they have to do there and what they can't do there. I have. Uh, I don't think that Georgia is going to get involved, truthfully. Florida was involved because Ron DeSantis was running for president, and I think he would have made a good president. But Trump outdid him. But at the same time, they're going to the attorney general's offices in these states and saying he can't run there. So I have no idea what that is. Never heard of it before. They keep coming up with stuff that I have never heard before in order to stop Trump. And yet everybody knows he stopped the spigot of money. He's a businessman. He knew what was going on. He found out. He knew when he walked in, he knew already that these people were ripoffs. And he stopped every one of them. Now, well, your lobbyists, oh yeah, he got them too. There shouldn't be any lobbyists there. You shouldn't have to pay $400 to get an EpiPen either. These big pharma, as they call them. Well, it's not just them now. Most of the farms, they got rid of them and threw people out that had been there 300 years, their families. Willie Nelson tried to help and did everything he could, so they went after him and they took everything he owned, including the records on the wall, saying he owed all this money in taxes. Took everything he had, cars, everything, and he had nothing. Clothes on his back about. That's it. After a career of 30, 40 years, because he tried to make somebody stop the government from taking farms. It was called Farm Aid. I don't know if anybody else remembers that. And Willie is very old, but he came back and ordered. He's made enough money to live. I'm assuming because I like Willie a lot, and what they've done to our own country is something else. I mean, this way these farms were there for 300 years in the family. You didn't have to pay somebody because it was already paid for. You don't own anything in the United States. You own nothing in the United States ever. You pay off your car note. You don't go put insurance on it. You don't go put a tag on it. You ain't moving that vehicle. And if you have X amount of time past what their time limit is, that vehicle's gone. You might as well just chop it up or whatever. You don't own anything. You own a house. You pay it off, right? You die. So your wife's going to inherit, or the husband, or somebody in the family will inherit this house. Well, no, that's not the way it is, even though it's paid for, right? You should just have to pay taxes every year on it, property taxes, and you shouldn't have to do that, as a matter of fact. But no, that's not how it works because of the death tax. And British is the same way, even higher taxes than we have. And so the people couldn't come up with that kind of money. It was basically you have to pay the value of whatever it is you're inheriting. So if you inherit a $500,000 farm, you got to pay $500,000. In other words, you've got to buy it. That's the death tax. So it never seems to get better. I get up here and I talk to everybody because I really want to to talk about what is going on in the United States, what they've done, what they're doing now, and what they're getting away with, and how does it get stopped. I'm a housewife now, a retired housewife, but I used to be out in it, and I couldn't make a difference either because I was too busy working, too busy making sure everybody had dinner, fall into bed, get back up again, do it again. The same way as this generation is. Social media is a perfect tool to get together and say, hey, what are they doing this for? Um, I've heard of them taking people and using them for body parts, that there are body farms. Excuse me. Ooh, apparently, when I go backwards, I lose my headphone. In any event, I would like to talk to other like minded people. I'd like to see if anybody else out there has thought about these things. I'd like to know that there are other people out there going, this ain't working right. I'd like to know I'm not crazy. I could prove it to my family then, because they're really certain I'm not. Yeah, you know, once in a while maybe, but not all the time. I see my time is about up, and I hate that because I enjoy talking to everybody, even though I can't see you. But I'm hoping that you guys will end up hitting that like button until it blows up. Yeah, I still vape. Makes my husband happy if I don't have my cigarillos. Hit the like bar, guys. I need the algorithm, as they say on YouTube. But I'd like to know that it's not just me. It's not just me. There are a bunch of us out there talking to the TVs like I do and yelling at them. And my husband says, don't do that. I do it anyway because I win the argument. There's more than me out there doing that. I know. But again, I digress. this time I talked a little bit more about my background and a little bit more about being cautious for the adoptees. And I hope I helped in that area. And I hope they do their homework. And I hope they don't get their hearts broke because they did meet them. It's one of those conundrums of, am I going to get that sign or am I going to get this sign? I mean, the ones you see are all happy, happy, happy. I had that for a couple of weeks, and it's they don't tell you they ain't happy, and you just find out a couple of years later. In one case, it was 30 years, so I mean, it can take a while. When you think someone's actually your friend, and you find out after 30 years to your face that they're not and never were, and then all the ugly stuff that had come up. Now you know where some of it came from. So be careful. Come see me at the bar. Hit the like button, guys. Hit that subscribe for heaven's sakes. I'm going to be here all week and I get bored. But I can only have so much time. And there's so many things that I want you and everybody to get together on. I want to learn something from this. I think this thing is awesome. I love social media and the fact that they're not censoring it too bad, at least yet. So go out there, kick today's in the butt, smile, enjoy the day. It's a beautiful sunny day out there. Things are starting to come out for spring, but know that you are appreciated out there. You really are. Come and see me at the bar. Come talk to me. Come argue with me. I learn either way. Yeah, it's free. I don't get paid to do it either, unless they really want me to shut up. Hadn't thought of that one. Hi, can you quit doing this? In any event, just know that I appreciate each and every one of you. Be safe, be free. Watch your six. Have a great day, guys.